Hello, everyone, and welcome to this very special interview. My name is Efrain Reyes, and I am the Latino Dad Coach. For the last 7 years, I have been working with parents, students, and families for many different ages. And today, I am going to do a very special interview, and I want to talk about a hot topic right now, which is how to raise your child to be anti-racist with everything that is going on in politics and in just our community. It seems like we are almost more divided than ever. But I think that it's our job as parents to teach our children these skills of how to be more inclusive and basically be anti-racist. So today I'm going to be talking to two very special guests. Uh, I have two special guests that have a lot of knowledge in this topic, not just because they have researched it, but because they have actually lived through some experiences as well. We are going to be talking about the Latino community in particular, and we're going to focus in the Mexican community as well. So I'm going to introduce my two guest today. My first guest is Maritza Peñaloza Renteria, and she is an Afro-Mexican American born in California, and she has roots from La Costa Chica, Guerrero, Mexico, and she is a mother of two girls ages 9 and 6. She has more than 10 years of experience working with families and children of all ages. Maritza has a bachelor's in sociology from California State Fullerton University. And my second guest is Carolyn Elvia Gasga, and she is a first generation Afro-Mexican American. She is from Afro-Indigenous roots from La Costa Chica, Guerrero, Mexico as well. And she was born and raised in Santa Ana, California. Carolyn has a um, Bachelor's of Arts degree in sociology with a concentration in family from Cal State Fullerton University. And she has been working with children, adolescents, and families for more than 6 years. Carolyn is a uh, family, Carolyn is an early intervention specialist focusing on prevention work in her community. All right, so let me bring them up to our screen so we can start our interview. Okay, ladies, would you mind turning on your cameras now? All right. Hello,
Hello.
Maritza. Hey, Carolyn.
Hello.
How are you guys doing today?
Very well. How are you?
Good, good. First of all, I just want to thank you guys for joining me. I really appreciate your time and just sharing your story for people. So I want to give you guys a little bit of time to kind of just introduce yourself and talk about some of your experiences just growing up as a Afro-Mexican American. What were some of your experiences? Maybe some different than just uh, your neighbor or someone that you would see every day. So let's start with Maritza, if that's okay. Maritza, would you like to kind of just introduce yourself, and how was it for you just growing up as a Afro-Mexican American?
Sure. Well, for me, I grew up in Santa Ana, and the neighborhood is, mostly Latino, and I grew up next to Carolyn, so we go way
Vecinas.
back. um, but I would say, like in school, maybe I did get bullied a lot because of my skin color and my
Mhm.
hair. Um, I have an incident that I shared before when I went to visit my friend's house. Her mom questioned whether I had lice in my hair because she mentioned that my people with my type of hair usually have lice.
Mhm.
And little things like that that I remember experiencing a little bit of like prejudice and biases um, based on how I look. I can think of anything right now at the top of my head.
Yeah.
Little things like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And how about for you, Carolyn? How was it for you growing up as an Afro Mexican American?
Yeah, like Maritza said, we actually were neighbors, so we knew each other, and our families actually know each other also from back home because we're both from La Costa Chica. And like she said, I think it was really different. Um, we have a really small community because everyone kind of knows each other from La Costa Chica, so I felt very welcomed when I was around them. But when I was around like my schoolmates and like other peers, I think I noticed I was different. There was always like questioning, like, "Oh, where are you from?" And then I would say, "I'm Mexican," and they'd be like, "Are you sure you're Mexican? Like, why do you look the way you look?" So that was very common. Like adults, children, that was like a constant like question that I would get all the time. And then also like, comments from other kids when they were being mean, like negra, or even like anche maima jokes.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was really common as well when I was in elementary. When I got to high school, I think, I had a stronger relationships. So
Yeah.
I had friends that, accepted me for who I was. And I think that was like a different experience I had.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing this. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this interview, because oftentimes I feel like people think that when we're talking about racism, it's just like here in America, right? Why is the white people are the racists or minorities and things like that? But we don't realize that a lot of times, even in our own country, we have a prejudice and racism, So you guys maybe looking a little bit different, you felt maybe not accepted or out of place when you went to school, right? And kids obviously told you those things, right? Like you mentioned, Carolyn, like those Aunt Jemima jokes or just like negra jokes or stuff like that. And as kids, they might think that's funny, but the sad part is that a lot of those jokes they're hearing it from their parents, right? And they don't realize it, that they're passing on that as generation from generation. So you guys kind of being singled out as Afro Mexicans, how did that affect you in your schoolwork, in your friendships, things like that? Can you guys think of any challenges that you guys went through because of that?
Yeah, actually, I went through different phases of like trying to find myself, and like, I asked my mom like, "Oh, so mom, like, why am I so morena?" And then my mom would just tell me like, "Oh, it's because where we come from, it's just really sunny and hot all the time, so we're just dark naturally." And I would just take that as, like information that my mom gave me, but she wasn't aware that she actually came from Afro-Indigenous roots as well. So I think for me it was like finding that like group that I wanted to like belong to in a sense, because I didn't really belong to like, you know, Mexican kids, and then I didn't really like fit in with the black kids either. So it was kind of like finding like a group where I felt like I belonged.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah. How about for you, Maritza?
Um, well, I remember going to Mexico, and one of my cousins mentioned something about us having roots from Africa. So I just remember the back of my head knowing that I had some roots from over there. But so when people would ask me like new friends, I would start a new school or I would start, a new friendship, they would ask me like, what are you? And I would say, I'm Mexican. And then like Carolyn mentioned, they would question it. And then I would, say, well, back in the days there was slavery and blah, blah, blah. So I had to kind of explain why I look the way I look and why I'm Mexican and this and that. But a lot of people did question me, and sometimes when I wouldn't even say, they just assumed I was African American. So they didn't know that I spoke Spanish, and all the time they would speak in English. And when I would say something in Spanish, they would be like, "Oh my God, you speak Spanish?" Yes, I'm Mexican, you know. But I also experienced what Carolyn experienced, like finding my group of people and not feeling like I could be in any group. One example, I went to the Santa Barbara Women of Color Conference, and they separated us by race, so Mexicans, Blacks, Indigenous, and I was like, where do I go? So I go to the Mexican group, and they're all, you know, lighter skin, some blonde. And then one of my friends that went with me, she was like, how come you don't go to the black group? And I was like, I don't know where I'm supposed to go, you know? So it was really, it's really hard sometimes to be like, where do I belong? And even going to Mexico too, like I go to Mexico and I'm like, oh, I belong here. And people, you know, see me differently because I was born here in America. So it's kind of like a little bit of, I don't belong anywhere and I belong everywhere at the same time.
Yeah, no, I mean that definitely can be difficult, especially going through school, right? Trying to make your friendships. And I feel like naturally we're just kind of like you know, we're attracted to people that we look like, you know, like even though we say that color shouldn't matter, but naturally, you know, like we're attracted to, okay, you look like me, you know, maybe we have some things in common, we can talk to each other. But for you guys, it was like, you know, I'm trying to fit in with Mexicans, but I'm not really fitting in because I don't look like that. And, you know, I'm trying to fit with African Americans, but the culture is different, so I don't fit with African Americans, right? So it was a sense of like, you know, where do I go? Was there something that helped you guys in that, like kind of finding that identity? Was there a turning point? Was there someone that helped you kind of feel more belong, or sense of belonging? I'm sorry.
Well, for me, it's just like lately, like the last couple of years, I've been, um, you know, trying to learn more from my culture, from where my parents are from. Exposing my daughters to it too brings me a lot of comfort. Visiting Mexico once a year at least helps me too. So, and being around Carolyn and, you know, my cousins and people that are from over there who experience probably the same um, experiences I do um, helps me a lot because we get to talk about it and have someone to bounce back, you know, the conversation and that understand.
Yeah, how about for you, Carolyn?
Yeah, like Maritza said, I think for me, I'm really grateful that I'm able to have, you know, Maritza and other people that kind of look like me and are from where I grew or where my parents grew up. We have a lot of family friends who we kind of just say we're cousins because we kind of look like alike, and we kind of just grew up around each other. So we just say like, oh, es mi primo, but we're not really related, but we're just that close. And I actually found out that I was Black or Afro-Indigenous from a college project. I was taking an African American class, and they told us to go to a seminar where we watched, I believe it's called Black in Latin America by Professor Gates. And they were just talking about how there are Black people in Mexico and Peru. And there was a clip where they showed our pueblo, it's called Guajinicuilapa, and they showed a clip of the church. And then I was like, oh, that looks familiar. And then I saw my uncle on there, and I was like, oh my God, that's my uncle. So I was like, oh, I think I'm Afro Indigenous. Like, and I did a lot of research when I was in college. I went back home to ask my grandma, you know, abuelita, like, why are we so dark? Like, where do you know, like, about your roots? So I asked a lot of questions those 2 last years of my college years, and it was kind of like it was eye opening for me to kind of like realize, you know, where I came from. And that experience was like really amazing for me because before that, like I said earlier, I was not really aware of my roots until, you know, I went to that seminar.
Yeah, no, that's really really eye opening, and it sounds like a great experience. And I actually watched the same episode, uh, and I realized how much Afro Indigenous roots we have in Mexico, and a lot of people don't know it, or has been forgotten. I saw that the second president, Vicente Guerrero, was actually an Afro-Mexican, and he was the one that eliminated the race category on the birth certificate to say that we're all Mexican, we're all equal, right? So in Mexico, there's no race; it's just Mexicans, right? Which was a good thing, in the terms that everybody's kind of equal. And oops, I think we lost Carolyn.
Oh,
We'll just continue with you, and hopefully she gets on there. It's a good thing where everybody's kind of equal, but at the same time, it kind of like made the Afro indigenous roots a little bit of forgotten. Kind of
yeah,
just let's not talk about it.
yeah.
Would you mind talking about, like, why do you think that happened? Why do you think that those roots were just kind of brushed under the table and like trying to be forgotten?
I think part of it could be, you know, people just didn't talk about it, and generation after generation, they just wasn't mentioned. So the new generations don't know. But it also has to do, I think, with the whole mejorando la raza thing, the caste system, wanting to be on the top of the caste system. So eliminating the darker skinned people, and not admitting that you do have African in you, so you can be in the higher caste system. I think that could also be a reason. Being ashamed of it. A lot of people say, "No, I'm not black. I'm moreno, or I'm indigenous, or I'm mestizo," but we all have a little bit of black in us.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I was actually like trying to see, like, okay, like in my family, who is like darker, who has more Afro indigenous like features. And I realized that one of my grandpa is a lot darker, and sometimes we say, oh yeah, he's just como, like Carolyn say, he's just dark because he was in the sun a lot. But it doesn't happen from one generation. No, this is like, thousands of years of change, right?
Yeah,
So the idea of another thing that they talked about in the clip was la abuelita escondida en el closet, right? We're trying to hide our Afro-Indigenous roots from society, and trying to kind of be more white, and kind of saying that white is the way to be, right?
yeah,
And this creates a sense of shame, right? If I'm a darker color Mexican, or if I'm a lighter color Mexican, so the idea of whiteness being the way to be.
yeah.
Hey, Carolyn, welcome
Hi.
back.
Sorry for that, guys.
No, you're good. You're good. So we were just talking about la abuelita escondida en el closet. Kind of like saying that everybody has a little bit of black in them, and Maritza was kind of talking about some of the reasons why this might be kind of just not talked about or forgotten and stuff like that. Did you want to add anything to that, Carolyn?
Um, the only thing I would probably add is that, you know, like you said, a lot of people, there's a little bit of Black in everybody. And like I shared earlier, you know, me personally and my family, we weren't really aware. And when I brought it up to my mom, I think there was a little bit of shame in like admitting that we were, you know, that we came from Afro descendientes. So I think that it was just like something that was passed down to her because of just racism that they experienced back home. So it was more like a relearning process for her and for me as well.
Yeah, no, yeah. And it's really sad, right, that she felt ashamed of having Afro Indigenous roots, and she didn't even know why. Right, it's just been passed down for generations, for after generations, and it was just like, I guess this is the way it is. And I think that's a lot of times what happens to parents, right? It's been passed down from generations to generations, saying that white is right and black is wrong, right? So what do you guys think as a parent, right? What are the questions that you should ask yourself when you are trying to like raise an anti-racist child, or trying to help your child just be more aware of their own identity, and basically help be more inclusive to other children?
Um, I think we could start with just what's it called? Just thinking about asking yourself questions like, how am I prejudiced around people of different skin colors? Or what are my biases when I
Mhm.
think of someone of color? And then thinking about that, and and thinking, why am I thinking this way? Is it the media? Is it what I learned from my parents? What is it, and what can I do to change that? So I think that's the first thing we need to kind of realize, like, how am I adding to this, racism in this country?
Yeah, those are great questions. Did you want to add anything to that, Carolyn?
Yeah, totally. I think being like mindful of your own biases is really important. Because, like Maritza said, I think a lot of the times people have learned these things because of, you know, our parents, and they've learned things because of their parents. But then when you really ask yourself, like, well, why do I feel this way? And is this a valid statement? I think that's a very powerful thing. Also being mindful of like what you say around your kids, right? So even making comments about, like, for example, don't be out in the sun too long because you're gonna get darker. And then asking like, well, why would it be such a bad thing to be darker? Or why is it, you know, a bad thing to be out and, you know, be a little bit morena. And I think that, you know, kids are really smart, and then they'll start to pick up and they'll make their own you know, conclusions about that. So like, if I'm darker, is that a bad thing? You know, mom or dad just told me that, you know, I shouldn't be out in the sun. Like, is being dark like a negative thing? Kids are like sponges. They retain everything, and they're very intelligent. So yeah, that's what I feel about that.
Thank you. And I think you brought up a good point, is like those little comments that we often don't even realize that they might be prejudiced, like saying that, like, oh, don't be out in the sun because you're gonna get darker, instead of focusing on like, don't be out in the sun because you're gonna get sunburn or something, right? Something that is actually gonna hurt you. Not getting darker is not gonna hurt you. Um, can you guys think of other comments that you've heard people say that are like, ooh, like more on the prejudice side? It can be towards African Americans, or it can be towards indigenous people. I heard like like calling someone Indio as a insult, right? It is bien Indio. So what does that mean? So you're saying that Indios are, you know, kind of below you, so those little things that we have been saying, or I've I've heard a lot of my relatives have said, it's prejudice, and it's racism. Can you guys think
Yeah.
of any of the other little comments like that?
I think something that I would actually hear very often from my families and like my tios and my tias, it was like hay que mejorar la raza. So like to better the race, right? So what does that mean? That means to marry or get partners that are lighter than you, that have more of like a straight hair texture, to kind of like have kids that are gonna look lighter. So that's something that I would hear often.
Okay. Did you want to add
Um,
anything to
uh,
that?
yeah, I was thinking of the pelo bueno, or like,
Mm,
you know,
yeah.
um, so like when people see my hair, they always, it's always like, oh my God, let me see your hair. Um, so like a lot of people before will call me, what was that word? Culuste.
Cuculuste.
Um, my aunt will say culuste. I don't know.
I think
Maybe it's different.
it's different. Yeah, they have like cuculuste or puchunca. That was like my nickname back when I was a kid.
Yeah, but for me it was more like cariñoso, you know. But if it was someone else calling me culuste, I would probably take it offensive because it depends on the person who's telling you that. Um, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, like little comments like that, like it depends on the intentions behind the language too. Because I hear, people call each other, like my aunt will call me culuste, but it was more of like, with, I don't know, with love and like, and if it was someone else calling me that, then to insult me, then it won't be, it won't be appropriate. But yeah,
Yeah. So it kind of also depends the intention behind the
yeah.
the comment or whatever. But I feel like sometimes, even though that intention might not be um, bad, the way that people come off, is, and they don't realize it, and it's just because we have been, you know just accustomed to saying these things and hearing these things. And so I think bringing awareness to these little comments that people say to each other is very important. And I have definitely said these things too. So it's like I'm just like, asking myself these questions, like, how am I prejudiced? How am I racist? And just being more self-aware of those things. Um, let's go back a little bit about talk about the children. We talked about the parents asking ourselves these questions. And then when you are raising a child, what do you guys think is important when you're to help them just be like an anti-racist human being?
Um, well, something simple that I do with my daughters is, for example, crayons, like buy different shades of crayons, not just, like the beige and the pink and then the brown and the black, but different shades. And then when you're coloring, depending on the age, when you're coloring with them, color your characters different skin colors. So they're aware that there's different people with different
Mm,
skin colors.
mhm.
Another thing too that I do is I buy them different dolls with different hair textures and different skin colors. I remember when my oldest, who's now 10, the first time I got her a dark skinned doll, what I did, because I don't know if you guys remember that study of, they put a doll, black doll and a white doll, and all the children, most of the children preferred the white doll, right? So most of the time that would probably happen with, young kids. So what we can do is, what I would do, I would introduce the new doll to my to my daughter's dolls, and I was like, oh, hey, my name is, and introduce the doll in a positive way, not just give them the doll and then leave it there. That way they can understand that, oh, this new person or this new doll has a different skin color, but she's going to be accepted into our group of dolls. So it's kind of like, what is that called? I forgot the name, but like you do that with the dolls, and then they'll do that with their friends or in class or in school. So kind of like setting the stage for them. And then I would do that with my daughter, maybe when she was like around 1, because by 2 they're already like putting pieces together. Okay, this person's this skin color, this person's this skin color. By 2 they already know what skin color is, and they start putting the pieces together for races and who am I going to be nice to, who am I going to be mean to. So that's important as early as 2. I don't know, Carolyn, did you want to add more to that?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that I think exposing kids to people of different ethnic backgrounds is really important. We grew up in Santa Ana where it's majority, Latinos, Mexicans. And it wasn't until I was a lot older that I was able to kind of explore, different cities around me, and kind of just like, see people of different backgrounds.
Oh, we lost her again. That's funny. It's okay. So one thing that you were saying about the dolls, like I think that's really, really important. And my daughter is 3 now, so I wish I could have started doing that a little earlier. But it's kind of like, I think it's like role modeling, right? This is kind of like what you expect to do. So then you're gonna, do it with your friends, right? So I think that is
Yeah.
really good. And also was what Carolyn was saying, like kind of um, introducing children to different ethnicity, different, I think different cultures and traditions, right? Different customs. I feel like oftentimes we live in a bubble with our own culture, and we don't realize there's so many other things around us, that especially like living in Southern California, we are able to expose our children to different things. So did you want to add anything
Yeah.
else to that?
Yeah, I agree with that. I grew up in Santa Ana as well, and just with my daughters, just going to Garden Grove, there's a lot of Asian culture over there, the Chinese New Year. They have festivals, just exposing them to the like different things like that. Um, and I was actually talking to Carolyn about this too. Um, we put our children in sports and clubs, and I was thinking like it's important to put your children in maybe a different city when you do a sport, so they can work together with other races too, not just like in your own city.
Yeah.
And even if we can't get out of our city, just watching TV, like the media, YouTube channels, cartoons, showing them different races, different cultures on there on the TV, reading books to them of different characters with darker skin color, different races, that could also help.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't even think about the sports idea, but that's really good, right? Like kind of, if the majority of the people in your city are Hispanic or of your same race, like put them somewhere else so they can kind of interact with other races and customs and things like that. Hey, Carolyn.
Hi, sorry guys, I keep having all these tech issues today.
No, you're good. You're good. So we were just adding to kind of what you were saying about, exposing kids to different cultures, different languages, different traditions, things like that. Like Maritza was saying, like, we have Garden Grove here. There's a lot of Asian American communities there where they celebrate Chinese New Year, things like that. Like, there's a lot of things that we can do to just expose our children. I think, like I said before, we tend to live in a bubble. But I don't know if you had anything else to add to it, or for that?
Um, no, I think I actually have, so I'm the oldest of nine, and I try my best to kind of expose or encourage my siblings to try new things and befriend people of different backgrounds, so that's something that I've always tried my best to do, just to encourage them to step outside of their comfort. It's difficult at first because we're comfortable and we're accustomed to just you know be even around the people that kind of look like us and um have similarities, but I think it's really important to kind of step outside of that and experience new things. And I think that changes the way that we think sometimes, because we come with our own experiences. And I think when you kind of learn from other people, and you learn they're just like us, they just look a little different. So I think that's really important for kids to take in at an early age.
Definitely. And then just Maritza was saying, like also like media, right? Like exposing them to books of different skin color, races, and traditions. Also like movies, right? Like watching movies maybe from another country, or just like with other actors and stuff like that, not just people of our own. So that's something that I definitely need to start doing. But yeah, I think all these are great ideas. So we're about 40 minutes, so I don't want to take too much of your time. I just want to give you guys some time to like, is there anything else that you would like to add, or
I
are
do.
you? Yeah, go ahead.
Carolyn, you mentioned to me that something about opportunity conversations.
Oh yeah. So conversation starters, or finding opportunities to like spark up some conversations about certain topics is really important for parents. We did discuss this when we were talking about all this. And if you're, for example, if you're watching a movie or if you're watching the news, I think that sometimes when you sit kids down and you're trying to ask the difficult questions of even like racism, right? I think it's really difficult for them to open up. But if you guys are sitting down watching TV and then something comes up, asking open-ended questions and just asking like, oh, well, what would you do if you were in that situation? And kind of giving them that power to just speak freely. And because it's not about them, right? It's about like someone else. So they're more open to share their ideas and their thoughts. So when it comes to race and things that might be difficult for parents to bring up, I always encourage parents to do that, because it just becomes more just like a natural conversation versus sitting down and like talking about something that they might not be open to talk to you about.
Yeah, that's a great idea of like kind of allowing the child to be, basically, it's not about them, right? It's about the person that is in the movie, but their thoughts and their ideas is them. So kind of like hearing them out and like kind of analyzing, okay, why are they thinking this way? Is there something that I can do to help him and stuff like that? Was there anything else you wanted to say, Maritza?
Um, no, not right now.
Okay, perfect. So yeah, we're just gonna end this conversation. I really appreciate you guys. I think we talked about a lot of great pointers, and kind of talked about the Afro-Indigenous roots in Mexico, and how do parents deal with this, right? Um, is there any projects that you guys want to share? Anything that you would like people to know about?
Well, we're working on a project. We've just brainstormed some stuff recently, actually, and I'm thinking about just starting a support group for people from our hometown in La Costa Chica, to kind of encourage, each other and be more of like mentors to our community. You know, where we come from, it's very small and there's not a lot of opportunities. So I think that it's really important for young kids to kind of learn where they come from and be proud of who they are, and also have role models that look like them. So Maritza and I were thinking of starting this project and kind of just working with, you know, our local kiddos. But that's just a project that we're still working on. And I'm really excited to, you know, get together with her and brainstorm a little bit more about that.
Yep, I'm excited.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, I love that idea. That's a great idea. I think like you said, having the kids have role models that look like them, you know, and having that support and also reconnecting, right? Like kind of like with your experience, not knowing that you were Afro-Indigenous for so long until you were in college. How is this gonna help, like, you know, let's say a 10-year-old, 12-year-old, hey, I'm Afro, you know, I have African roots and stuff like that, and like having a better sense of their identity. I love it. I love it. Well, I look forward to hearing more about this, definitely promoting it and hearing how this goes. I appreciate you guys. Have a great night,
Thank
and thank
you.
you for your time.
Thank you.
One more thing, I'm gonna be sharing some articles and videos and websites that you guys, the audience, can go and click and get more information. So just look in the comments and I'll post it there.
Perfect. I love that. Some
Thank you,
resources
Maritza.
for the community. Awesome. Thank you guys, and you guys can find me at Change Coaching on Instagram, and then I have my supporting Latino fathers group on Facebook, so you guys can also join that group. That's where I'm going to be sharing this video and my other platforms. So thank you and have a great night.